Okay, let's unpack this. What if the way you talk to yourself, um, the fundamental beliefs buzzing in your head, actually held the key to unlocking massive, like tangible change in your life?
That's a really powerful idea.
Yeah, and it's the compelling idea we're exploring today. We're doing a deep dive into insights from a source called 17 Thoughts to Empower Your Life.
Right, and this source, it lays out these 17 points, not just as, philosophical ideas, but as really direct tools,
Yeah.
almost like a user manual for reprogramming your internal operating system.
To build a more empowered life, exactly. And our mission today is pretty clear. We want to guide you, the listener, through each of these key thoughts.
Mm.
We're going beyond just summarizing. We want to really distill the core nugget, understand why the source thinks it's important, and figure out, how these ideas can actually be put into
Yeah,
practice.
making it actionable.
This whole deep dive is tailored for you, really, to help you quickly get to the heart of this material.
Absolutely. And the source presents these thoughts almost like building blocks, foundations, starting with what's happening internally.
Inside first.
Yeah. It suggests that, well, before we can change much on the outside, we kind of need to look at the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world.
Makes sense.
Let's start right there with the source's first few foundational ideas.
Okay, so the very first point the source really hammers home is this need to eliminate limiting beliefs.
Those things we tell ourselves.
Exactly. The source uses this really vivid image, comparing these false beliefs to chains that bind our feet. The silent statements like, I wasn't born rich, or I just don't have that talent, or the big one, I'm not good enough.
And this is where it gets practical.
Yeah.
The source offers a method, like a two-step process for dealing with these chains.
Okay.
First, you've got to become aware of the belief, like actually hear yourself thinking it.
Catch it in the act.
Right. And once you've caught it, the source says hit it with two key questions. First, is this actually truth, or is it just a belief I hold?
Important distinction.
Very. And then the second question, looking forward, if I change this belief, what could my life look like?
Opening possibilities.
Yeah, the source frames these questions as tools, almost surgical, to separate, perceived limits from actual reality.
Mm.
It challenges you to question what you accept as your personal truth.
That first step feels huge, like clearing away the weeds. And after tackling what might be holding you back, the source then pivots. It talks about finding your dreams.
All right.
It speaks right to that feeling of being a bit lost sometimes. And the source is really clear. Finding dreams isn't passive. It's not something we wait for them to find us.
So it's active. It insists it's something we must actively seek.
So how do you actively seek?
Well, the source gives some simple, really actionable starting points. It suggests just noticing and writing down things that genuinely make you happy,
Okay.
activities where you just lose track of time, or even things people often ask for your help with.
Interesting clues.
Exactly. The source's insight is that your dreams aren't usually some abstract thing way out there. They're often found right where our abilities, interests, and the world's needs meet. That's a very practical way the source suggests looking for hints in your everyday life.
So you're starting to find what you want, dismantling the blockers. Then the source shifts focus again, this time to leveraging what's already working, focusing on your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Which is often counterintuitive, right?
Totally. It acknowledges how society, or just our own habits, often make us dwell on weaknesses. The source really pushes for a deliberate shift away from that constant self-critique.
And it gives a very concrete practice for this, too.
Yeah.
Write down at least 10 of your strengths.
10. Okay.
Yeah, 10 strengths. And commit to reading that list every day.
Why daily?
Well, the source's rationale is pretty straightforward but powerful. It argues that developing strengths often yield greater returns than fixing weaknesses.
Huh. So leaning into what you're good at.
Exactly. The source suggests you'll get a bigger bang for your buck, so to speak, by building on your natural capabilities instead of always trying to patch up the things you think you're bad at.
Building on strengths, that ties perfectly into the next point then. Building self-confidence.
Devotion.
Yeah. The source calls confidence the absolute foundation of success. And central to that, according to the source, is the inner voice, which it points out is the voice we hear most often.
Constantly narrating.
Right.
And the source's advice here is quite, well, direct and kind, it says. Intentionally change that inner dialogue so it sounds like your best friend.
Instead of your worst critic.
Precisely. So instead of beating yourself up over mistakes, the source suggests offering encouragement, like, okay, that didn't work, what can we try next?
Gentle redirection.
Yeah. And crucially, the source advises praising yourself, even for small accomplishments. It argues these little acknowledgments add up, they accumulate to build a really strong internal sense of worth and capability.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Is your inner voice your ally or your harshest critic?
Right. And the source basically says you get to choose. Consciously make it your ally.
Okay, so that covers a lot of the internal landscape,
Yeah.
beliefs, dreams, strengths, confidence. Now we seem to be shifting towards how that mindset interacts with uh, the external world, starting with a big one, wealth.
Yes, and the source definitely connects that internal state directly to external outcomes,
Right.
like
Well,
wealth.
exactly. Point 5 introduces this idea of believing in wealth. It suggests that feeling wealthy, that sense of abundance, isn't just about the number in your bank account. It starts fundamentally with an attitude.
The source frames it interestingly. Believing you deserve wealth isn't presented as entitlement.
Right.
It's framed as the necessary internal state that actually drives the actions and decisions needed to create wealth.
Oh, okay.
So it talks about viewing money as a tool, not a goal, emphasizing looking for opportunities rather than being, paralyzed by fear of risk or scarcity.
So the feeling comes first.
That's the fascinating connection the source makes, yeah. That this feeling of wealth, starting inside from a place of deservingness and seeing opportunity, is what ultimately helps manifest real prosperity on the outside.
That internal belief then seems to flow right into how you approach your work, which is the next point. Believing you will do excellent work,
Link straight back to self-confidence.
which the source just called the foundation.
Right. And the source details how this belief shows up in behavior. You prepare more thoroughly, maybe you try a bit harder, you don't give up as easily when things get tough.
It fuels persistence.
Exactly. But the source is careful here. It distinguishes this from arrogance. It's defined as faith in our own potential.
Okay.
And a key point the source makes is, when we believe in ourselves, others will believe in us too. It suggests this creates a kind of positive feedback loop, opening doors. It's about aligning that internal conviction with your external actions and performance.
Okay, alignment.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that often feels like a challenge, maybe even scary for some, accepting change.
Yeah. Change is tough.
But this source frames it completely differently, not as something to fear, but as a gift, even a door to new possibilities.
That's a big reframe.
It is. And the source states pretty directly that resisting change is essentially resisting your own potential for growth. If you fight change, you stay stuck.
So the source suggests reframing it actively in your mind. View change as an adventure, an unfolding journey, rather than a static threat.
An adventure, okay.
Yeah. It encourages holding the perspective that even when things feel uncertain, maybe something better is waiting on the other side. You just don't know yet.
Embracing the unknown a bit.
Exactly. The core idea is that embracing change, unknowns and all, is what allows you to adapt, learn, and ultimately become better than you were before. The source kind of implicitly asks, are you letting the discomfort of change stop you from discovering the potential hidden within it?
That's a good question to sit with. Okay, shifting gears a bit now, the source moves into some more practical, tangible thoughts, particularly around personal finances.
Right? A critical area. It impacts stress, freedom, and the source, again, highlights how it connects back to mindset and habit, not just numbers.
So point number 8 seems straightforward on the surface. Start saving money.
Simple advice.
But the source immediately goes deeper than just the mechanics. It links saving habits really deeply to feelings, to a sense of control. It even uses the example of saving just 20 balls a day, a small amount.
Right, like less than $1.
Yeah, to show the principle, the consistency matters more than the initial amount.
And this is where the source offers that unique psychological angle. It argues that the act of consistently saving builds feelings of security and control.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the really interesting bit is the source's perspective that every bat saved is like a point we give ourselves.
Like points in a game?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Suggesting that saving is a way to build internal pride and confidence. It contributes to feeling capable and working towards having that crucial emergency fund.
So saving isn't just about the money itself.
No, the source is saying it's a powerful habit for building self-worth and emotional resilience too.
That definitely reframes the task, makes it feel less like deprivation and more like self-care. Following that, the source tackles examining spending habits. Point 9. It calls this an important first step toward better change financially. And it acknowledges that common feeling, where does the money go? It just seems to disappear.
And the source cuts right to the chase on the action needed. Keeping a record of income and expenses. Tracking.
You down.
Yep. It explains that this simple act is crucial because it forces you to see your actual money-spending behavior. No more guesswork.
You see the patterns.
Exactly. And according to the source, having that clear data lets you finally differentiate necessary expenses from those that maybe could be reduced or cut, enabling informed decisions instead of just feeling mystified.
And point 10 builds right on that analysis. Find out where your money goes. So once you have the data from tracking,
Then you analyze.
right, the next step is seeing where it's flowing, especially as the source points out, to things that don't truly bring happiness or value.
Ah, the value judgment.
Hmm.
And the source gives specific examples of these kinds of leaks, doesn't it?
It does. It mentions things like unused services, subscriptions you forgot about, impulsive purchases, or just paying for convenience when maybe it's not really necessary.
We all do that sometime.
For sure. And the action the source prescribes is clear. Plug those holes, identify where money is going unnecessarily, and then consciously redirect money toward more important things.
So it's about alignment again.
Yeah, the source is basically advocating for aligning your spending with your actual values and priorities, using that tracking data like a map to show you where you might be off course.
Makes sense. Know where it goes, then decide if that's where you want it to go.
Okay, let's shift back towards more internal and relational strategies now. Point 11 is, well, it sounds a bit unusual at first. Write letters to encourage yourself.
Yeah, that one stands out.
The source frames it as a powerful way to create encouragement for yourself exactly when you might need it most.
And the method is key here. The source explains. Write these letters when you're feeling good.
When you're up.
Yeah, when you're feeling optimistic, strong, clear-headed. And the content. Focus on acknowledging things you've done well, progress you've made, things about yourself you genuinely feel proud of.
Like capturing that positive energy on paper.
Exactly. Because the source's powerful concept here is that these letters then serve as a future support system. When you hit a rough patch, you reread them, and it's like friends who encourage you during difficult times.
Wow, so it's like past you giving future you a pep talk.
Precisely. A strategy for intentionally banking encouragement for later.
That's a really unique form of self-support. Okay, then the source addresses the burden of the past. Point 12. Let go of bad things from the past.
The heavy baggage.
Yeah, the source uses a really strong metaphor picturing past hurts, mistakes, regrets as a heavy bag we carry everywhere, which naturally makes us walk slowly and get tired.
Weighs you down.
Right. The source argues that clinging onto that stuff prevents you from moving forward freely.
But the source also provides a crucial clarification, doesn't it? About what letting go actually means.
Yes, good point. It's important.
It explicitly says letting go does not mean forgetting or pretending something bad didn't happen.
So it's not denial.
No. Instead, the source defines it as learning from it and then releasing it. Taking the lesson, but dropping the emotional weight.
Learn and release.
Exactly. The core message seems to be, we can't change the past, that's fixed. But our power is in choosing to create a better future by refusing to let the past dictate our present pace and our potential.
It really makes you think, what weight are you carrying that you could potentially set down?
Yeah, powerful question.
Point 13 then focuses on an interpersonal skill. One the source calls rare but valuable. Be a good listener.
Crucial for connection.
Absolutely. The source highlights its importance not just for relationships, but for our own learning and understanding of others.
And it gets specific about what good listening actually involves, according to the source. It's defined as paying attention to listen, not just waiting for your chance to speak.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. It also involves genuinely caring about the speaker's emotions and feelings, not just the words or facts being said.
Reading between the lines a bit.
And actively asking questions to understand better, showing you're engaged and want clarity.
So it's an active process, not passive.
Very active. And the source suggests the outcome is clear. Practice this, become a good listener, and others will feel comfortable opening up to you. It enriches your connections and your own understanding. It underscores how that external connection is built on internal presence and genuine interest.
Moving back to mindset again. The source talks about point 14. Think about good fortune.
The lucky mindset.
Yeah. The source actually asserts that our thoughts have the power to create reality. And specifically, thinking of yourself as fortunate or lucky helps you actively see more opportunities, feel more grateful, and attract good things.
But the source adds an important nuance here too, right? It clarifies this isn't about self-deception or ignoring difficulties.
Right, not just wishful thinking.
No. It's about choosing to see the world positively. And importantly, when you do face difficult situations, it's about consciously finding the good points and lessons learned within them.
Finding the silver lining, or the lesson.
Exactly. The source argues that this mindset, this proactive search for the positive or the learning opportunity, is what actually builds resilience. It empowers you to overcome obstacles rather than feeling crushed by them. The source links this belief in good fortune directly to building strength and adaptability.
Okay, that makes sense. Point 15 is very direct, very practical. Stay away from negative people.
No ambiguity there.
None. The source makes a really strong statement that the people we surround ourselves with greatly influence our thoughts and energy. Full stop.
Yeah, energy vampires versus radiators.
Exactly. Negative individuals, according to the source, literally drain energy and create discouragement, while positive people give energy and inspiration.
And the source frames your choice of social circle as an important investment in your own mental and emotional well-being.
An investment, okay. How do you gauge it?
It offers a simple test, really. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone.
Check in with yourself.
Yeah. If you consistently feel heavy-hearted and discouraged, the source advises reducing that contact. If you feel energized and inspired, invest more time in those connections.
Makes sense?
It's a clear call from the source. Actively curate your environment for maximum positive influence. It asks you implicitly, are the people around you lifting you up or weighing you down?
A crucial question. Okay, point 16 tackles the idea of risk, something many people try to avoid.
Understandably.
But the source states unequivocally that a life without risk is a life without growth.
But it's specific about the kind of risk, isn't it? It emphasizes smart risks.
Right, not just recklessness. What does the source define as a smart risk?
It's about calculating possibilities, thinking things through, preparing backup plans just in case, and importantly, accepting risks we can handle, knowing your limits.
Calculated and prepared.
Yes. And the source reframes the whole idea of winners. It says, winners aren't people who never fail. That's impossible.
So who are they?
They're the ones who dare to try and learn from failure. Failure isn't the end, it's data.
Ah, learning from it.
Exactly. The key insight the source offers here is that every well-thought-out risk will always teach us something, no matter the immediate outcome. The learning itself is the guaranteed return on that smart risk.
That reframes failure completely. It's just feedback. Okay, finally, the 17th point. And here, the source seems to acknowledge a very practical reality. Money can end many troubles.
Back to the practical stuff.
Yeah, the source is quite pragmatic here. It states that yes, having sufficient money can indeed solve many problems related to daily life and stress.
And it lists examples, right? Like reducing stress over bills, providing more freedom of choice.
Yeah, and opening opportunities to help others, which is interesting.
But then the source quickly adds that crucial layer again. It stresses the importance of having a good relationship with money.
What does that mean, according to the source?
It means not being controlled by it, like being enslaved, chasing it endlessly, but also not dismissing its importance or, despising it. Finding a balance.
Respecting it as a tool.
Exactly. The source concludes its list by positioning money as a tool, a valuable resource that helps us live with dignity, reduces certain stresses, and importantly, enables us to pursue the things we're passionate about. It brings together the internal mindset stuff with the practical reality of needing resources.
So there they are, the 17 thoughts the source presents as keys to transforming your life. It covers a lot of ground: internal beliefs, external actions, relationships, resources.
It's quite comprehensive.
Yeah.
But the source is absolutely insistent on one final crucial message, isn't it?
Yes, that knowing these points isn't enough.
Right. These points are only powerful if you are putting them into practice. Knowledge alone doesn't change things. Action is essential.
And the source is realistic about this too. It emphasizes that this kind of personal change, it's not instant. It doesn't happen overnight.
No quick fixes?
Right. It's built, the source says, from accumulating small daily practices. Consistency is key.
And to avoid feeling overwhelmed by, 17 points, the source offers a clear path forward.
Which is?
Start by choosing the one thought that resonates with you most. Just pick one from this list that really speaks to you right now.
Focus on that one.
Yeah. Focus on practicing that single thought consistently, day in, day out, until it starts to feel natural, like a habit. And only then maybe move on to deliberately work on the next one.
Small steps, sustained effort.
Exactly.
And the source leaves us with one final, simple, but incredibly powerful anchor thought to carry forward, doesn't it?
The self-belief anchor.
Yeah. As you, the listener, begin this process or maybe continue on your journey, The source suggests you remind yourself we can do it.
Tell yourself you can.
Because, as the source so wisely puts it, any meaningful good change always begins with that fundamental belief in yourself. It starts with telling yourself, we can do it.